Hi there, friends. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. If you're feeling tired or overwhelmed, take a moment to sit down, breathe, and join me for a cozy little chat about something not many people know about, but it might actually be closer to our lives or the lives of those around us than we realize. Have you heard of OCD? Yep, obsessive compulsive disorder. When people hear about OCD, they often picture someone who's obsessed with cleanliness, can't stand things out of order, or needs to check things over and over. But actually, OCD is much more than that. And what we're going to talk about today are the lesser-known types of OCD that most people have never heard of. Let's sit down and talk. Maybe you've had moments where you wondered, why do I feel like this? Or maybe you know someone whose behavior seems unusual, but it could actually be a form of OCD that's just not commonly recognized. Part 1. Let's get to know OCD first. Before we jump into the rare types of OCD, it's important to understand what OCD actually is. OCD is a mental health condition characterized by obsessions, unwanted, intrusive thoughts, urges, or images that keep popping up, and/or compulsions, repetitive behaviors performed to reduce the anxiety caused by those obsessions. The kinds of OCD people often see or hear about usually look like excessive hand washing due to fear of germs, repeatedly checking if doors are locked, needing to arrange items in a specific order. But did you know that there are also forms of OCD that aren't as obvious? They might not involve visible behaviors at all, and often even the person experiencing them doesn't quite understand what's going on. That's where our exploration begins. Part 2. Puro OCD, obsessive only. Let's start with one of the most misunderstood forms, puro or purely obsessional OCD. What's unique here is that people with puro don't necessarily have physical compulsions. The battles mostly happen in their minds. Examples of these mental obsessions include religious themes, blasphemous thoughts, sexual thoughts, violent or aggressive images. For instance, someone might suddenly think, what if I hurt someone, even though they have zero desire to do so? But the thought keeps coming over and over, creating intense anxiety. People with puro often feel ashamed or afraid to talk about what they're thinking, fearing they'll be judged. But these thoughts are not reflections of who they are. They're intrusive, unwanted, and part of the OCD cycle. Quick check-in. Have you ever had a thought you didn't want, but the more you tried to ignore it, the more it came back? This might be something worth exploring further. Part 3. Scrupulosity, when OCD meets morality and religion. This form of OCD is deeply tied to a person's morals or religious beliefs. Scrupulosity involves an overwhelming fear of being sinful or immoral, even over things that aren't actually wrong. A person with this type might repeat prayers or rituals excessively, constantly seek reassurance that they haven't committed a sin, feel intense guilt over normal thoughts. For example, someone might feel the need to redo their prayer if a bad thought crosses their mind while praying. It's not a lack of faith, it's OCD playing tricks on the mind. Gentle reflection. Have you ever felt deeply guilty over something tiny, even when you logically knew it wasn't wrong? That could be a sign of this lesser-known OCD subtype. Part 4. Relationship OCD, ROCD. Now this one might hit close to home for some of us, especially if you're in a relationship. ROCD involves obsessive doubts and fears about your relationship, even if everything is objectively fine. Common thoughts include, do I really love my partner? Are they really the one for me? What if I'm settling and don't realize it? These aren't just casual thoughts. They repeat endlessly, causing distress and confusion. And no matter how much reassurance someone gets, the doubts just keep coming. Little nudge, ever found yourself stuck in those kinds of thoughts in your relationship? Maybe this part of our chat gives you something new to think about. Part 5. Harm OCD, fear of hurting others. This type of OCD is particularly scary for those who experience it. Harm OCD involves intrusive thoughts about hurting others, even loved ones. These thoughts are disturbing and deeply unwanted. Examples include a parent afraid they'll hurt their child, even if they never would. Avoiding knives or sharp objects out of fear of doing something violent. These thoughts don't mean the person is dangerous, quite the opposite. They're terrified by the thoughts because they care deeply. That intense fear and avoidance is a sign of OCD, not intent. Part 6. HCD, homosexual OCD. This form of OCD involves obsessive doubts about one's sexual orientation. A person who's always identified as straight might suddenly be flooded with intrusive thoughts like, what if I'm actually gay and just hiding it from myself? Why did I notice that person? Does that mean something? Even if there's no real shift in attraction, the thoughts can create massive anxiety. It's not about discovering a new identity. It's the fear and doubt spiraling out of control. Important note, this is not a judgment on anyone's orientation. It's about how OCD distorts thinking and hijacks peace of mind. Part 7. Existential OCD, when deep thoughts go too deep. Everyone ponders life's big questions now and then. But for someone with existential OCD, these questions become a constant, anxiety-inducing loop. Thoughts might include, what's the point of anything? Is any of this real? What if nothing actually exists? Instead of feeling inspired, people with this OCD subtype feel stuck, like they can't stop thinking about these questions, no matter how hard they try. Curious question. Have you ever felt like your thoughts about life's meaning started making you more anxious than inspired? Part 8. Somatic and sensorimotor OCD. These types of OCD focus on the body and physical sensations. Somatic OCD makes someone hyper-aware of things like breathing, blinking, or swallowing. Sensorimotor OCD is similar, but it's more about movements and sensations, like the position of your tongue or how your clothes feel. Things that are usually automatic suddenly feel distracting and overwhelming. Quick check-in. Have you ever become so aware of your own breathing that it felt like you forgot how to breathe naturally? Disclaimer. This conversation is meant for educational and awareness purposes only. I'm not a mental health professional. If anything you read here feels familiar or distressing, please don't hesitate to reach out to a licensed therapist or mental health expert. You're not alone, and help is absolutely out there. Thanks for spending this time with me. Let's keep these kinds of chats going gentle, open, and judgment-free. Take care of yourself, okay? You deserve that.